Most people talk too much. They give away their energy without realizing it. They explain their goals before they've taken a single step. They confess their pain before it has taught them anything. They broadcast their plans before they've begun. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, why nothing seems to grow. In Shaolin philosophy, silence is not emptiness. It is restraint. It is focus. It is inner power held back by choice. We are taught from a young age to control our bodies or be controlled by them. But few are ever trained to control their words, and even fewer are taught to guard their inner life. The truth is, energy leaks where words are wasted, and clarity disappears when too much is shared too soon. Today I will show you why intelligent people, those who walk the path of real self-mastery, keep three things private at any cost, not to hide, not to impress, but because they understand something most don't. Every truth, when spoken too early, begins to lose its strength. In the Shaolin tradition, silence was never just stillness. It was training, it was protection, it was presence. In this video, you'll learn what must remain unsaid if you are serious about evolving. You'll see how silence creates momentum, sharpens intention, and strengthens your spirit. And you'll feel the difference between performative openness and sacred privacy. Stay until the end. What I will share is rarely taught and even more rarely practiced. But if you're ready, it will shift how you move through the world. Welcome to the Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe now and walk with us in silence, power, and presence. Most people lose their dream before they ever begin. Not because they lack effort, but because they expose it too soon. There is a teaching in the monastery. When the seed is planted, you do not dig it up to show others. You water it in silence. You wait, you let the darkness do its work. A goal is like this. In the beginning, it is soft. It has no form yet, only direction. It is sacred, not because others approve, but because it belongs to you. And that alone makes it worth protecting. But when you speak too early, when you share it to impress or to prove your worth, you weaken it. You shift your energy from action to attention, from the path to the applause. I have seen many strong students collapse under this weight. They speak with passion, but there is no root. They tell the world what they plan to do, but the doing never arrives. Not because they lack discipline, but because their energy was scattered before it could take shape. An intelligent person senses this. They know that a vision is not ready for the world until it can walk on its own legs. Until then, it is kept close, like breath, like prayer. It is not secrecy, it is protection. The same way a sculptor hides the stone until the lines are clean. The same way a master draws the sword only when the moment is clear. You do not reveal the fire while it's still smoke. You build it, quietly, every day, without asking the world to clap, because the dream is not for them to validate. It is for you to live, and that's what gives it power. Pain is not the enemy, but how you carry it decides what it becomes. In the Shaolin path, suffering is not something to run from or talk over. It's a mirror. It shows you where you're soft, where you're reactive, where the ego still clings, but only if you're quiet enough to hear it. When the body is injured during training, the student does not immediately explain, complain, or ask why. First they breathe, they observe, they feel, they listen to what the pain is saying, without words, without panic. This is not weakness, this is discipline. The same applies to emotional wounds. If you speak too soon about betrayal, about failure, about heartbreak, you risk turning your story into your identity. You start repeating it, living inside it, showing it to others like a badge. And in doing so, the pain hardens. It becomes something you defend, not something you transform. The wise do not rush to label what they feel. They wait. They sit with the ache in silence. They let it move through the body like a slow river, cold at first, but gradually cleansing. And in that stillness, something happens. The suffering begins to teach. It shows you what matters. It breaks your pride. It burns away illusion. Then, only when the lesson is clear, when the heart has become strong and quiet, they may speak, or they may not, because often by then there is nothing left to say. The experience has already done its work. This kind of inner mastery cannot be performed. It cannot be faked. It comes only to those who are willing to feel without running, to bleed without display, and to grow without applause. That is the power of suffering, when met with silence and strength. A wise move is rarely loud. In the martial arts hall, there's a lesson repeated in silence. The more often the hand moves, the more predictable it becomes. The hand that waits, the one held back, steady, unseen, strikes with precision. It's not faster, it's clearer, because it has waited for the exact moment. The same principle lives outside the temple. When you speak your intentions before they've matured, you dilute them. Talking gives a false sense of progress. It feels like motion, but it is only noise. Strategy loses its edge when it's scattered in words. A plan shared too early invites doubt, distraction, and unnecessary resistance. There is a discipline in keeping your next step hidden, not out of fear, but out of clarity. When you don't have to explain yourself, you move cleaner. Your energy doesn't split between action and validation, it stays whole. Intelligent people move this way, in silence, in focus. They do not seek approval before the work is done. They do not need to be understood in every phase. They trust the path is real, even when it's invisible to others. In ancient traditions, the general does not reveal the map before the battle. The master does not telegraph the strike. Stillness builds force, and timing, not talk, is what gives the move its power. You don't need to announce your growth, it will show. You don't need to warn the world what's coming. Let them see it when it arrives. The most powerful actions are rooted in stillness, and they echo long after the words have fallen away. True strength doesn't need to be seen to be real. In Shaolin training, we were taught to move without showing force, to breathe without drawing attention, to walk with power but never with pride. There is a saying, the tiger doesn't announce its presence, it simply moves, and that is enough. This is the way of the one who has trained in silence. Their peace is not loud. Their confidence does not need an audience. They are not trying to be noticed. They are simply living in alignment. The discipline is in the restraint. The mastery is in what remains unseen. You can tell who has done the inner work by what they no longer need. They no longer chase recognition. They no longer explain their worth. They no longer perform because they are not acting from lack. They are moving from presence. A true practitioner doesn't need to convince you they are devoted. Their life reveals it, not in grand displays, but in the small, exacting choices made when no one is watching. The early mornings, the repeated rituals, the refusal to betray themselves for praise. In a world addicted to performance, the one who stays rooted in the internal becomes rare and powerful. Their calm unsettles people. Their quiet becomes louder than words. Their stillness is felt in the room, even if they say nothing. This is the strength of someone who has walked through doubt, through failure, through fire, and no longer needs to be seen to know they are whole. They do not flash their progress like a banner. They carry it like breath, always with them, but invisible. Real mastery is quiet, and in that quiet it becomes unshakable. In the discipline of mindfulness, silence is not just a practice, it is protection. The mind is a temple, not a marketplace, and yet many treat their thoughts like goods to be displayed. Every emotion spoken aloud, every opinion shared before it's settled. But in the old traditions, you were taught to hold, to watch, to sift carefully between what deserves voice and what is better left within. Not every thought is truth, not every feeling is final. When you give them away too freely, you dilute their power, you scatter your presence. The wise learn this early. Energy is not infinite. Every word spoken pulls from the same reservoir. You need to stay focused, clear, and rooted. This is why privacy is not isolation. It is refinement. It filters what enters and what leaves. Just as the temple walls protect sacred space, your silence protects your mind. Your emotional world is not for public display. It is a place of deep work, of private clearing, of quiet unfolding. There's a form of discipline that lives in restraint, in choosing when to speak and when to simply observe, in not needing to respond, explain, or declare, because often what feels urgent in the moment is just passing weather. Let it pass. Those who master this begin to radiate a different kind of calm. Their peace is not performative, it's grounded. Their presence feels full, not because they are loud, but because they are intact. Nothing leaks, nothing is wasted. To protect your consciousness, you don't need to shut the world out, but you must know when to hold back, when to listen, when to let silence speak for you. That is the armor of mindfulness, and it is built moment by moment in the space you choose not to fill. Silence is often misunderstood. People assume that if you're not speaking, you're hiding, that if you keep something to yourself, it must be fear or shame. But the wise know better. Silence isn't always about avoidance. Sometimes it's about reverence. There are truths that live deep inside you, truths not yet shaped by action or time. They're still forming, still soft, like clay before it hardens. Speak them too soon and they crumble under the weight of opinion, doubt, or misunderstanding. An intelligent person feels this. They sense when something isn't ready to be shared, not because it's weak, but because it's sacred, like a prayer whispered in solitude, like a lotus blooming in darkness far from curious hands. They hold, not to conceal, but to protect. There's a kind of discipline in restraint. It takes more strength to wait than to explain, more self-respect to carry a truth in silence than to seek validation for it. Because the world, as it is, does not always listen with care, and not every silence is waiting to be broken. In ancient practice, students were often asked to sit with their insights before speaking, days, weeks, not as a punishment, but as a way to let wisdom settle, to test its roots. Some realizations only grow stronger in stillness. Some awakenings die the moment they're put on display. Holding is not hiding, it is honoring. It is the recognition that not everything needs to be said to be real, and not everything real is ready to be known. Some things live best in the quiet, until life itself makes room for their voice. There is a turning point on the path where words fall away and work begins. In the beginning, it's natural to talk, to plan, to describe what you will become. The mind likes to paint pictures of the future. It creates momentum through vision. But there comes a moment when even that becomes noise. When you stop talking about what you might do, something shifts. You begin to act quietly, without asking for recognition, without asking for permission. The energy once spent explaining your path returns to your feet, to your breath, to your hands. In Shaolin training, we do not announce every intention. We move in silence, again and again, hours of form work without discussion. The master watches, the student listens, not with ears, but with presence. The body learns, the spirit sharpens, and the ego slowly softens. Growth here does not need celebration. The repetition itself becomes the proof. No one claps for the 10,000 movement, but that is the one that matters most. That is the one that refines. That is the one that reveals who you are becoming. Discipline lives in what is repeated when no one is watching, not in the declarations, but in the doing. Real change happens in the spaces where you choose effort over explanation. In those early mornings, in those long silences, in the sweat that no one sees. The deeper you walk this path, the less you need to speak of it, not because you're hiding, but because your actions begin to speak for themselves. And that voice born of quiet devotion cannot be faked. It carries a weight no words can match. The self is not a fixed shape. It's a flame meant to flicker, shift, and grow. But the more you speak about who you are, the more you lock yourself into that version. You begin to repeat the same story, not because it's still true, but because you've already told it, and others expect it, and so you perform the past, even as the present tries to pull you forward. In the ancient teachings, identity was seen as fluid, something to be witnessed, not clung to. A student would enter training without titles, without roles, without declarations, just breath, discipline, and time. Slowly, through silence and effort, the deeper self would begin to reveal itself, not through words, but through presence. But today, we speak too soon. We declare too much. I am this. I believe that. This is who I will always be. These words become cages. And even if the heart changes, the mouth keeps repeating what no longer fits. Growth slows. Truth bends. The intelligent person resists this. They understand that silence creates space, and space allows transformation. They do not rush to define themselves. They do not grip too tightly to any single version. They let the self unfold quietly like mist rising from a mountain. There is strength in saying nothing, in not having to explain your process while you're still in it, in letting your life evolve without apology. The path of mastery is not about becoming something impressive. It's about becoming something honest. And that cannot happen if you're always talking over the silence where change begins. The quietest people often carry the deepest strength. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they've made peace with not needing to say it. Their vision, their pain, their next step, these are not for the world to shape. They are kept within, where they can grow untouched. This is the lesson. You don't need to announce everything. You don't need to share every feeling or defend every decision. Let your presence speak. Let your actions whisper the truth of your path. In daily life, this means choosing silence over reaction, choosing discipline over display. It means holding your goals like seeds, protected, not paraded. It means letting your growth happen where it's most powerful, out of sight, within. Keep something sacred. Let something stay unspoken and watch how it transforms you. Thank you for walking with us today. If this teaching speaks to your journey, like this video and subscribe to our channel Shaolin Soulfire for more calm, clear guidance on the path of inner mastery.